Hello, this is Antonio Moore. I'm here with Yvette Carnell. It's always great to have discussions with her. A few of you guys have seen us talk before. We're here today from Breaking Brown, Tone Talks, and Your Black World. We're going to have a discussion about Trump because Trump is taking the nomination basically. From nobody expected it at the beginning, but we here now. Knocked off 17 people, and he's here. He's going to be the nominee for the Republicans. You want to introduce yourself, Yvette?
No. Hey, Your Black World family. Hey, Breaking Brown family. Let's get into
Yeah.
it.
So last night, after Indiana, nobody expected it, but Cruz drops out. Cruz drops out, has the emotional speech, and then this morning, we wake up to Kasich, also saying, "I'm out too." So it's almost like like we're no longer talking about a contested convention. And so, very interesting. He's not here. We are. Trump has knocked off 17, other people. He's knocked off the Bushes. He's knocked off Cruz. He knocked off Lindsey Graham, and even you can say he took a knockoff of Romney. And so like he didn't just like kind of fall in like McCain did. He literally knocked off the best the Republicans had. What's your thoughts on Cruz and Kasich jumping out?
I mean, I think after Indiana last night, like Cruz said, he didn't have a path to victory. But I think my expectation, I think a lot of people's expectation was that we were going to have a contested convention. And the convention was going to be fire. They'd already said no firearms, no guns in the convention. I was like, this is going to be on the popping. And I think Trump just sealed the deal. Yesterday, and it's over. Like he's the Republican nominee.
No, and I have to agree. And I was listening to Trump this morning. I actually listened to a bit of Trump, maybe about like 5 to 10 minutes of what he said this morning to Wolf Blitzer, and then I listened to about like the full span of Hillary's statements to Anderson Cooper today, which is about 15 to 17 minutes. And one thing that Trump said that kind of jumps out at me is he said, "I expected this to be opposite. I expected me to have to drag all the way to the convention, while Hillary on her side would have been wrapped this up, but she can't get the deal done." And it was interesting because that is true. I mean, I expected it as well. I expected Hillary to be done with Bernie, and then for Trump to have this drag out with Cruz and Kasich all the way to the convention. But we have the opposite, and we have to wonder how that's going to impact the primaries. How do Democrats pivot before Bernie's ready to leave? What do you think?
I mean, in terms of how Democrats pivot, I think it's pretty clear that going forward, I think Bernie's going to probably make a small show, at the Democratic convention, and then it's going to be all Hillary, and of course I think he's going to bless Hillary. I know Hillary wants her to be to be blessed a lot more than I think Bernie's going to be willing to bless her, but I think he's going to bless her all the same. And then I think what's going to happen is that Hillary's going to go and try to get Republicans. Like after this, Hillary's going to go and get Republicans, and she's going to forget about black people and go and try to get Republicans. The only time I think you're going to hear Hillary talk about black people is when we're talking about Trump, because she's going to try to use that as, oh my God, you can't vote for him. He's racist. But she isn't going to try to put any policy on the tables in terms of what she's going to do to help black people. That's off the table now. That's gone. She's going to be like, you can't vote for him. That's going to be her cry to black people, just can't vote for him. But I think she's going to spend the majority of her time like trying to win over white Republican voters who aren't comfortable with Trump.
So you think that she's going to pull right now from where she's been, the far left?
She's going to go. I think she's going to go right. And the only time you're going to hear her even talk about race is to be like, you black people can't be crazy enough to vote for Trump or stay home while Trump gets elected.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Van Jones had a speech. Well, let me not say a speech, like a video he made maybe last night or the night before, where he basically laid it out that 70% of Black America that votes will swing to Hillary. 30% are kind of on the fence, and if 30% stay on the fence, Trump might be our next president. And like, do you see where he's coming from? Because I definitely do. I kind of was going to talk about the numbers, but do you see where Van is coming from?
Yeah, in terms of that possibility, yeah, I think it's definitely possible. I think it all depends on how much. Like, this is where the black surrogates come into play, right? This is where the black misleadership functionaries come into play. All of the black people who came out and helped Hillary in the South, you're going to see black black elected officials and preachers and everybody come out and try to rally the base. They're going to try to rally the base while Hillary Clinton goes over there to get white people.
I feel you.
Get white conservatives. So that's what I think is going to happen. But who knows whether or not it works?
Yeah, and it's a trip because when you start to look at this thing, I think black people traditionally have viewed it as Republicans evil, Democrats good. And the thing is, I think, we're presuming in this video that people have certain background, but we're going to back out the story to Michelle Alexander's piece in The Nation, my own piece on Huffington Post. Hillary Clinton should ask for Black America's forgiveness before she asks for our vote. And also, my friend Nathaniel wrote a great piece in The Current talking about Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton's history with like Black America, his real history, talking about like what he did as far as playing the saxophone while stripping welfare. And so, like, when you start to look at Clinton, it's just really interesting because I think that Clinton challenges the underbelly of Democrats being like the superhero for Black America, and then at the same time, Trump actually for the first time in a long time challenges that idea of him being of Republicans like de facto being the villain of Black America, because Trump to this point has said things about Muslims, he said things about Latinos and immigration, but I mean he brought out Jamil's father, who actually was shot down in Los Angeles by an illegal. And Jamil's father's been stumping for Trump. He had the reverends, the Black reverends, come meet with him. I mean, I guess you've seen Black people protest at Trump rallies, but I haven't as clearly seen a policy reason as I've seen with Clinton. I think that Black people, when they've gone to protest Clinton, it's been mass incarceration, it's been welfare, it's been hard policy. I talked to Ashley Williams, who confronted, and you can see it on my Tone Talks channel, who confronted Hillary, and it was really built around like mass incarceration. What is the like reason that Black people are so like against Trump in your head, policy or otherwise?
They really don't have. They really like, comparatively. Like, I'm not saying like most politicians in America are don't do anything or do enough. I would say, not saying anything, because you have LBJ, you have some good stuff in there. So I'm saying don't do enough for African Americans. But listen, when you look at Trump, you're comparing him to someone like Bill Clinton, who went home, during the first election to ensure the execution of a mentally disabled man.
Black man, mentally disabled black man.
Disabled black man. Like, this is who we can train.
And the reason, and let's frame the reason too, is so that he could cut off George Bush's claim of a better stance on being hard on blacks and crime.
Yeah.
So that's why he did it too.
I'm tougher on these niggas than you. I don't care about them. I mean, like in the piece you were talking about, he said there was a person quoted in that piece who basically said, if you can go and kill a vegetable, which is basically what Ricky Ray was. If you can go kill a vegetable, who this man is obviously, he's hallucinating, he don't know where he is, he don't really have no concept of time, he had a piece of cake that he had set aside for later when he was going to be executed, he had no idea what was going on. If you can kill that man, that black man, then I don't know how I could trust you or anybody else with anything. So the idea that when you compare, it's a comparative analysis with me. When you compare Trump to Bill Clinton, I'll take Trump any day of the week.
See, and pause for a second, because people will say, well, Bill Clinton's separate from Hillary. And this is the fundamental problem. And like, until we address this elephant in the room, we can't get into honest discourse. She's making this election Bill Clinton versus Trump. When he brings up NAFTA, she brings up the 90s. She just did it today. She says, the 90s were good. We created 23 million jobs. She's saying me and my husband as president created 23 million jobs. So, like, it is running against Bill. It's running against the Clintons. And the fundamental, like, conundrum you have is this idea she's the first female president, while at the same time allowing her to associate with Bill's successes as a white male dominant figure, but then disassociating her when we actually try to make criticism. And so, like, that puts people in a position where you can't really do any evaluation. What I'm going to do is make the evaluation. I'm going to give her total credit for the 23 million jobs, even though I would argue a lot of that has more to do with policy changes than people actually give credit for. I've talked about it with Michelle Alexander. Things like putting African American men in jail, creating basically an invisible group. By that I mean when you put a person in jail, they become they go from being unemployed to not counting as far as against the unemployment numbers, and a number of other little tactics and tricks that were used to actually get people off of welfare and make them into prison guards to watch the people in jail, which was happening in places like South Carolina. Long story short, I believe that it's totally fair to give her credit for Bill Clinton, but I also think what you're doing right now is totally fair as well to critique Bill Clinton against Trump and against the place that people say Republicans are at today, including Trump.
Yeah, because I mean, people always say, "Well, she's her own woman." No, she's not. Like, and I wish anybody. I want somebody to show me any biographer, any friend of the Clintons, or anybody who says that Bill Clinton, that these people weren't a team from day one. Like any biographer, everybody has always maintained Hillary Clinton called around. When we were talking about the crime bill. She called around to help get votes for the crime bill. You didn't play the role of a traditional first lady, and everybody knew it. That's part of the reason that so many Republicans hate you is because they know that you didn't play that role, that you were political, and that you were going to use that to elevate yourself. And that's exactly what she did. She used it to become a senator from New York in the State Department. Nobody who was just first lady is going to go from first lady to being U.S. senator. That's just not what happened. She was able to do that because she wasn't just the first lady, because she did play a policy role. That's how she was able to elevate herself to that level. So this idea that you can somehow separate the two is just insane. Because even now you're going to have Bill Clinton back in the White House for what, like a third term, where he's just kind of doing stuff partially. I mean, it just makes no sense. This is Team Clinton right here. Period. You don't have to talk about Bill Hillary. It's just Team Clinton.
No, and I totally agree, which makes it a whole interesting discussion about her as the first female president, and that's for another day. But when you look at her particularly, and we'll come back to Trump, people have to understand that she was a Goldwater girl, and you should look up Goldwater to really understand what I'm saying when I say that. And to think that somebody could be that and they're not impact on how they view black people is just baseline insane. And I'm not saying it defines her entirely, but I take that in conjunction with what she did with or her part in welfare. I take that in conjunction with the super predator statement, which everybody pretty much should have heard by now, calling young black men super predators. And I take that in conjunction with how she reacted to Black Lives Matter more recently. And the addition means it should be a free for all for the black vote, and it shouldn't be a given the way that say I think it was with Obama. And if it is a free for all, she's in trouble. She's in trouble, like Van Jones said. Looking at turnout, what people don't understand about the Clintons, when you look at '96, we had a low turnout for black people, 53% of black people. If it stays at 53% this time, she might not win. What we saw was when Obama came in 08 and in 12, we saw black people coming out in insane numbers. In 08, black people, I think they came out above 68%, and 98% of those people voted for Obama. That's like a head start that and then if you look in 12, they say 93% of all the blacks that turned out voted for him. And so when you look at that, I think what we're going to see is that Hillary's going to need 60% of black people to turn out. That's a lot better than Bill, I think, got both times.
Yeah, she's going to need that. And whether or not, and that's going to depend on the black leadership functionaries. But this is what I don't want to see happen. This is what I don't want to see happen. I don't want black people to get in the middle of this and start fighting for this. This is our fight. We got to fight for Hillary. We got to come out for Hillary. We don't have to do anything. If anything, it's up to Hillary and Donald Trump to prove to us that they're best for us. It's up to them to be here are my policy proposals for black people. Here's what I want to see specifically happen for black people. Not we need to all be less racist and hearts and minds. I don't want to hear that stuff no more. Give me a specific policy proposal. And I'm not getting in the midst. I saw that stuff with Ron Paul. I remember when Ron Paul ran a few years ago. You had black people coming out in the street talking about, oh my God, Ron Paul's racist newsletters. Well, first of all, Ron Paul was never going to be president. And you know who did want him to be president or who didn't want to hear him talk? It was Republicans who didn't want him to talk about the whole thing about, legalization of drugs and mass incarceration. They didn't want to hear that stuff that he was talking, that libertarian stuff. So they used black people to shut him up and to shut him down. We don't need to be used this time to shut Trump down. That's not our job. And I think if we understand that's not our job, then we'll be further along in terms of what we need to do. It's not our job to shut Trump down. It's not our job to be oh, come on, all black people, you got to go vote for Trump. That's not our job. You got to go vote for Hillary. No, if let Hillary do this fight. This is Hillary's fight, and she need to get in there and fight.
And I have to agree, and I would hope that, like, coming back to the middle of the conversation, that blacks don't just vote traditionally Democratic just because. That actually they look at these candidates with a hard lens and really looking at what's their policy going to be going forward for black people. And, like, I've heard some of the stuff she said, in the speeches that she said. A lot of it was taken from Bernie, but it just didn't go far enough for me. And, like, I'm just wondering whether Trump will go further. I don't know. Nobody's put those questions to him because he's been in the Republican side of the debate and not had to answer those hard questions. I also think he's going to have a chasm in trying to fulfill, like, the needs of Black America, while at the same time playing to the fascist group that he kind of has right now, because they're so contrasted when he has to talk about certain issues beyond immigration. I mean, I doubt that he'll be able to say that he's going to give black people anything in that group that votes for him traditionally be okay with it. So he's going to have a heck of a battle coming up as well. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree, but you better find a way around it, because I'm not coming out to vote for anybody who can't say something specifically that you're going to do. Like, I can't do it. I can't just do, well, I'm going to be fair to the black people. I'm going to be better than Obama to the black people. Like, that's just not good enough.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'll end kind of here, because one of Trump's, like, core, like, issues is immigration. And, like, I don't know if Black America's ever come up with like, when I say Black America, descendants of slavery, have come up with a clear stance on immigration that makes sense for themselves and for their families, whether it be economically or historically. I mean, like, fundamentally, it seems like we take, like, more of a moral compass stance than an actual, like, what is this impact on me kind of stance. And, like, with Trump's stamp, should black people be for or against Trump?
I mean, I think you have a lot of black people who are like, I'm in solidarity with Mexican Americans in terms of how they're treated, and I don't want to see them put out. I want, and I'm sympathetic to that argument, right? But I think there's another side of the argument that's there, but that doesn't get addressed and should be addressed regardless of how you feel. Like, the mainstream media just won't let people address it, which is the fact that there is an issue here. Like, what Trump is asking for, even if you talk about the wall, what he's basically saying is that I want to enforce immigration policy that already exists, and I'm going to do it by using a wall. Do you know what I mean? Like, and some, like, I don't see how that in and of itself is a radical proposal. Like, if the law says that you're supposed to come here legally and you can't come here, illegally, if you put up a wall to enforce what is already U.S. law, I don't see how that is necessarily, a controversial thing. Maybe it's controversial that you want Mexico to pay for it, but it's being spoken of as like, oh, this is the most controversial thing. And for black people who work who are laborers, I think some of them would say, if you talk to them, wages are down because these businesses, and the real culprit here is business, which is hiring. You can hire sometimes illegal immigrants to do work for cheap. And you don't have to hire black people or white people or whatever, Americans. So I think this is something that should be openly discussed without you being accused of being anti-immigrant by discussing it.
No, I totally agree. And I think fundamentally, descendants of slaves really don't have family members outside of the country, nor do they have green card issues or any of the immigration issues. But it's like a trip, because we take on so many battles that we end up not really having a compass of what is our issue and what should we really be caring about and what actually hurts us economically. And, like, I think we need to take a hard look at this issue and be far more critical beyond just the moral compass issue of I just want to do what makes me feel good, and actually say what actually helps you and your family and your community to progress forward. But this is going to be an interesting election cycle. I mean, Trump is done. He pivots to Hillary. Yeah. Hillary is nearing done. I'm not saying that Bernie's over, but it's going to be a Hillary-Trump, contest, and we'll see where Black America lands. I wanted to just get your voice on it. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll definitely talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you.